Afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. So we're going to be talking about social media. Specifically, a little line that suggests that Keir Starmer would support the blocking of Twitter, X, as it more properly called. I keep calling it Twitter, sorry. Now, this relates, actually, ironically, not to Twitter directly, but to Grok, which is the AI that is integrated into Twitter. But Twitter has its own problems as well. Now, before we go over what's been said by the government here, because remember, it wouldn't be the government themselves that block it. It would be Ofcom backed up, presumably by a judge, a bit like the situation that happened in Brazil last year. But let's just consider social media platforms. So the particular problem we have here is the latest thing with, I mean, there's lots of problems that there are, and there's lots of things that the government should be doing to address it. The first of which is people coming into contact with disinformation. The government should really be taking a much stronger line on that. Europe more broadly should be taking a much stronger line on that. You know, there comes a point where, you know, you have to say, yeah, we understand at the moment that we have to sort of walk on eggshells a little bit with the Trump administration. That's collectively across Europe. But at the end of the day, there's absolutely no point in doing that if it means allowing the Trump administration to destroy the fabric of Europe anyway. I mean, what's the difference between Russia destroying Europe and America destroying it? It's still the same outcome, right? X is the worst of the lots. Of all, I mean, there's lots of social media platforms. These are the 6 main ones, as far as I'm concerned. The ones on the top are the dodgiest, because they're run by people who have a political agenda. The ones on the bottom, not so much. They, you know, if you think of things of, I mean, Reddit, an individual subreddit can, and indeed often is, politically motivated for certain subreddits. But Reddit as a platform is, like, you know, largely user powered. It should still be subject to regulations. TikTok and YouTube are run on more normal bases. That is, they are going to amplify disinformation accidentally because they're going to try and match the content to the person who wants to watch the content. So that's a sort of natural process. What you need to do with companies like TikTok and YouTube is just to say, just to put in regulations that say you need to do more to tackle disinformation or other harmful content. The specific harmful content that's triggering this, of course, is producing sexualized images of children, as well as women in general, against their will, right? Fave's there saying the main problem is none of the platforms are proactively taking responsibility for what people are publishing on there, especially with regards to political lies. Some are worse than others, which means by definition some are better than others. But you are right, none of these platforms is on a moral crusade. Some of them are more, the ones on the bottom have a more responsible attitude. But yes, they're not. And the thing is, you can't expect them to either. Because at the end of the day, who do you put? Like, Elon Musk runs, because he owns Twitter, so he runs Twitter exactly as he wants. Mark Zuckerberg runs Facebook and Instagram exactly as he wants. Threads as well, but Threads is a nothing. You know, no one really is on Threads. There's like 3 people on it, doesn't matter. But Facebook and Instagram, large platforms. And Mark Zuckerberg also directly controls those and has a political agenda. The ones on the bottom, not so much. They really run, although politics does interfere with them, they really run on a commercial basis. But that commercial basis still rewards certain things, right? Because they want you on the platforms, they want you to see things. They have to match what you want to see with the person. So they would respond to regulation if there were consequences. I'm going to argue Mark Zuckerberg also would respond. He would be more resistant, but he would respond because at the end of the day, he still has a business model. Twitter doesn't. Elon Musk would not respond at all, right? So we sort of saw that with Brazil. He did have to comply a little bit, but he, something like this. The only like if you think about what can the UK government do, right? The only thing we can fine them. He'll pay the fine, right? That doesn't do anything. The only thing we can do is block it from Britain, which is where you come into. So there's an article in the Guardian. I'll have to remember to put it in the description below afterwards. So again, the emphasis here is Grok. Grok and X are different things. Grok is an AI tool, but it is integrated in X. So the two are linked. And they are linked as well because even Twitter itself is being run to amplify certain types of messaging anyway. Twitter is not run to match the people with the content they want to watch. It's like it's there to match what Elon Musk wants you to see, regardless of what you want to see. And the thing is about that, first of all, there's no viable business model, therefore. And so his business model is not that Twitter itself is profitable. It's never going to be profitable on this basis. It probably couldn't be anyway, but it wasn't. It's not going to be on this basis. The business model for him is it helps him get people in charge of different countries, wealthy countries in Europe and North America, who will then give him lucrative government contracts. So despite his belly aching last year about as Trump said, the lack of subsidies for electric vehicles, he still gets a lot of government contracts. He's still making money out of Trump's administration. And he wants to make money out of Europe as well. But in order to do that, he needs to undermine current European politics. So he sees this as so X itself is not designed to be profitable. It's designed to make his other business interests more profitable. And that's a problem. So it means you can't hurt Twitter directly. That won't work. And boycotting it doesn't work out. I know a lot of people are leaving Twitter, and obviously if people want to leave Twitter, they should leave Twitter. It's toxic, right? But it's not hurting Musk. It's helping, in fact, because one thing Grok has been programmed with, right? And this is known because it is open. Like Elon Musk's very big about it being open source. So I'm not hiding anything. Great. That means people can analyze it and see how Grok is being programmed, right? And how Grok is being programmed is other AI tools can mislead, but they're learning from the internet, and they're trying to work out which sources of information on the line are more reliable than others, and they try and weight according to which are the most reliable sources, the same way that we would, right? Grok doesn't work that way. Grok is specifically programmed to be to mistrust mainstream sources and to put more trust in stuff that's on the Twitter platform, and particularly Elon Musk. It is known that Grok has actually admitted it, that it basically uses Elon Musk's own tweets as an anchor onto reality. So Grok is fundamentally different to other AI models. Other AI models try to learn and try to provide information. Grok doesn't. Grok deliberately tries to mislead. The UK and EU should show strength together and sanction the tech companies if they do not comply with the requirements. Yes. Share prices would fall, expose Donald J. Trump's economy for what it really is, a bubble. So I'm not sure. I mean, that would do harm to us as well. We have to be careful. Obviously, Europe and the UK together are powerful enough to cause America massive economic problems. We've got lots of things we could do. We've got several red buttons. I'm just going to sort of make that a bit smaller because my head keeps getting in the way. We do have a number of red buttons that we could press to really shit Trump up. The problem is all of them punch ourselves in the face as well. The way I've sometimes described it, It's a bit like having a hand grenade. It's a bit like, you know, in Return of the Jedi, Bosch, in Princess Leia disguised as Bosch, the bounty hunter, with the grenade, right? It was a threat. It was intended as a threat. It would kill everyone there, but it would kill them as well. And it's the same thing here. There are several things we can do. We can, I mean, we hold a lot of government debt. We could call that in. We can apply very, very severe economic sanctions. The EU indeed has legislation that allows it to do so, the so-called trade bazooka, right? But bazooka is well named because at close range, it will also damage you. And this is the problem we have. There's other problems as well, of course. The fact that we still need America for Ukraine and so on. So it is quite difficult, but there are things we could do if pressed. Certainly. I just read a Guardian report that saying that X image creation is now limited to paying subscribers. Is that right? I've no idea, and the only way I could find out is by Googling it. Is that good enough? I'm going to suggest that's still not good enough, because here's the thing, right? So I have AI tools, right? Civil diplomatic ties. Okay, that's extreme. That's what we're trying to avoid right now. At that point, what is to then stop America just invading Greenland and wherever the hell else, right? No. We even have some diplomatic ties with Russia, right? You don't solve anything by cutting diplomatic ties unless a country is completely useless to you. Where was I? Sorry. What, you know, if someone's like, I have AI tools. Like, I can't just get it to do whatever I want, because the AI tools I have they have guidelines, they have guardrails. Again, they need designing better. They need the government to get involved, but they're there. I can't, for example, on the tools I have access to, produce an image of a real person, like someone like, I can't produce an image of Donald J. Trump dressed up as Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, for example. I haven't tried, by the way, but it won't let me produce images of Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin or people like that. It won't let. Ironically, it does let you do it for some people. You can do it for Boris Johnson on the Google Gemini one, like the. But anyway, there are guardrails. They don't exist on X. So saying, oh, it'll only be available for people who pay for it, but they will pay for it. They will still produce the images, and then there's nothing to stop them using those images publicly. What's to stop them? So that, I don't know whether that's true or not, but even if it is, all that means is, like all of the decent AI creation tools you have to pay for. That's not what's the issue here. The issue is that images are being produced that are harmful. They're either sexualized content, or they're of children, or even of non-consenting adults, real people. Right? It doesn't matter on what basis they're created. It's the sharing of it that's the most dangerous. The fact that they will be there in public. So yeah, the UK and EU have to come up with some response to this. They must do. They cannot just acquiesce to America on everything just because of the Ukraine situation. They have to be able to say to America, look, we're paying you for your support of Ukraine. Isn't that big enough? Isn't the fact that they are funding American defense companies, isn't that enough? I think that should be enough. I think that is enough. You know, if you say to Trump, well, I mean, there must be something that's enough. Say to Trump, if you remove support from Ukraine, then we are going to pull all of our purchases of American equipment for our own personal uses. Right? Let's see if I can find a quick figure, because you cannot just let Trump do anything, right? You have to keep things compartmentalized. Sorry, not my mic there. So I'm just going to try and find out, see if we can get an easy answer. I bet you can't. So, according to Google AI, not Grok, Europe spent at least $61 billion on US military hardware between February 2022 and September 2023. So that's about a year, and that's a period of a year and a half. It's stepped up since then, but I suppose what you'd have to do is, how much is the US spending on supporting Ukraine? I don't think very much these days. But how much is it spending, and how much are we spending on them? Again, Trump's all about the transactions, isn't it? What I'm saying is, we surely must be able to take robust action against social media companies without Trump threatening Ukraine. Like, it's really this simple. Think about the various threats. So, Ukraine, we just need to say to Trump, then we will stop buying your stuff. Do you want to go and tell your US defense contractors that their contracts are going to be scrapped? We're not paying them because you have pulled out of supporting Ukraine. That has to be enough there. Then what if Trump threatens to raise tariffs? Again, you say to them, the only reason we're not applying counter tariffs to you is because, again, of support for Ukraine. If you don't support Ukraine, or you try and raise tariffs higher, we are just going to fight back with our own tariffs. We do need to get tough. I do appreciate the diplomatic difficulty with trying to negotiate with Trump, who's a fucking idiot, but we do have to do anything. EU might as well tank everything with preemptive spy. See, then the thing is, because we have democracies, all of the leaders behind that will then lose those elections. There's nothing to help you lose an election like it will create economic harm. There's nothing we can do to America that does not produce economic pain, right? And there's nothing like economic pain. We've seen it, haven't we? You know, we saw it. There was a period of a couple of years, it's still sort of ongoing, where elections are arriving and incumbents are losing those elections all over the world. Why? Because of the post-COVID cost of living crisis, caused by multiple factors, caused by COVID everywhere around the world. Then we've got, in this country, we've also got Ukraine and Brexit that added to it. But nonetheless, cost of living crisis is a great reason for people want to change governments. Couldn't at least all politicians stop using Twitter? Don't understand how you can condemn Musk and the company on the one hand, but continue to use it on the other. They could, but that doesn't actually help. It's just, what they should be doing is taking action to make the platform. Again, if a politician removes themselves from Twitter or any other platform that's offending, all they're doing is removing a voice of reason. The problem is not the people on Twitter. The problem is what Twitter is showing to the public. If the public don't leave Twitter, there is no value. Now, and I've said before in various contexts, for me, a boycott is always a personal thing. There are always some people who do not need to use a thing and they can boycott it quite safely, and there's some people who do. Politicians do themselves harm if they're not active on Twitter. They lose a direct connection to the public, and that will only help the likes of Reform UK and the ones who want to cause us harm. So I don't think that politicians, if they want to use Twitter, that's up to them. But I actually don't myself support that move, because that just makes things worse. What they need to do is to force Twitter to behave. And if it won't, block it entirely. Now, if you block it entirely, there's not a problem, because that's sort of forcing the whole country to boycott it. If the whole country boycotts it, we ain't got a problem. Even me, I find Twitter, I'm not on it as much these days because it is, I said recently, a few weeks ago, I can't remember if it was a couple of months ago or a month ago or something, Twitter has changed for me, right? I use it because there's a lot of experts on it. Some of them have left. That's a shame. So it's no longer as good a source of information for me anymore. But it is still a source of information. There are still experts on it. And what happened is, I think it was last month or the month before, I did do a video on it. Something changed. And I used to get because people say, oh, they're constantly spam with this toxic shit and Elon. I hardly ever saw Elon Musk tweets in my feed, right? For me, it gave a useful mix of the content from the people I followed, who are the experts mostly, and the content from random right-wing dickheads. But I also find that useful. I find it useful to I want to know what the right wing is saying, what particularly the far right is saying. Twitter's a good place to see it. Whereas now, it's much more skewed towards the right wing talking points, and I'm not seeing the stuff that I want to see as well on there. So it's become less useful for me. So I'm just naturally pulling away from it from a usefulness point of view. But politicians should be active on all lines of communication to the public. So I would not support politicians boycotting it. I support politicians blocking it. Block it from the whole country. The problem is not so much what a politician says on Twitter. The problem is what other people see. It shows how powerful these countries are. Social media companies should have been massively regulated before they consolidated such a small number of operators. Yes, they are, and they are incredibly powerful. We've got to a point now where collectively they are more powerful than even powerful nations. The UK is utterly dependent on these tech companies. There's no way of stopping that. We're not dependent on Twitter. We don't need Twitter, right? And we don't need Grok. But we do need the tech industry in general. We need American tech companies. Otherwise, our standard of living will fall. We are reliant upon them. And the problem is, we've now got this awkward situation where that means we're having to give out contracts and pay money to people who intend us harm. So it would be much better all round if we just force these companies to behave. YouTube have already shown that they will respond well to regulation. They did that 10 years ago, a bit under 10 years ago. The Adpocalypse, they showed that they will actually, but that was like pressure from advertisers, but they will also respond. Like, for example, 2024's general election, and elections around the world, YouTube did actually implement tools to try to suppress disinformation during election campaigns. So, you know, they are capable of doing it, and they've shown that they're willing to do it. But my worry is that on X, Twitter, I'm slowly moving. I can't say X without saying Twitter, at least. My worry is that at the next election, it's going to be flooded with fake images. Take the news a couple of days ago, right? What happened? Minneapolis, some ICE agents jump out of a car. So basically what was happening, someone was trying to turn into the road, and it seemed to me, from what I can see from the footage, they inadvertently turned into the way of this ICE car or something. So they jump out, go, rah, 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 rah. And she gets scared and thinks, I just want to get out of here, mate. And she goes off, they shoot her, she's dead, right? How do we know that the official... And there's been 2 shootings, yes, in Portland. ICE, again, have shot 2 people. Now, the federal government have given a version of events there that was self-defense too. But they said that in Minneapolis, and we know that's not true because of the video footage. Right? And we know that. So we've got video footage. We know that the US government are lying, which means they may well be lying about what happened in Portland a day later, right? But here's the thing. What if we get to a position where anyone can fake any video convincingly? What if we look at something that looks like bystander mobile phone footage of an event and it's not true, or it might not be true? And that's my worry. If you think about videos now, videos really good now. The AI videos are superb, but they're not perfect. What if they are perfected in the next few years? What if come the next general election, X Twitter is flooded with fake videos that look really compelling? So the way I look at it, I think we're going to have to block it anyway, So better to block it now, just as a punishment, just as better to block it now until and say we'll turn it back on when you decide to comply with our laws, than to block it for the election when it looks like it could be politically motivated. Say more and more Labour MPs appearing on Blue Sky. Louise Haigh made a post yesterday urging Labour to come off Twitter. I don't agree. They should be on Blue Sky. They should be on all platforms. But they've got to talk to the public. The public are on Twitter. They're on Blue Sky as well, so you use Blue Sky. They're on Instagram. So, like, Labour MPs, well, all MPs, but Labour MPs should be on all of these platforms. Every single one. There's potentially others as well. I haven't put Blue Sky on there. They should be on all of them. And some of them, I mean, you can duplicate to a certain extent. You think about your three types of content, right? You've got text-based content for the likes of Twitter, Blue Sky, Reddit, stuff like that. You can duplicate it. If you've got some statements to make, you can put the same statement on all those platforms, no problem. Your second type of content is your image-based content. Could be like meme stuff, right? That suits things like Facebook, like Instagram. You can put it on any you could put it on, Twitter and Blue Sky as well, but that particularly suits Facebook and Instagram, right? Then you can do video content, short video content, try and make it engaging for Christ's sake. And that particularly suits YouTube, TikTok. You also put that on Facebook and Instagram as well, right? But that's three types of content. I think Labour MPs should be producing three types of content every single week, multiple times a week. Video content, image/meme-based content, and text, short statement-based content. And it should be across all of the platforms. And they're not doing. Who saw that weird street scene where the guy had his legs on backwards? Yeah, but these days, a lot of it. See, and the thing is as well, if you're willing to spend the time on it, like the first time you get AI to do something, it comes up with bollocks, right? Okay. It looks really good at first sight, but then you look carefully and there's like things wrong with it. You can keep tweaking it. You just keep tweaking it until it looks flawless, right? Now, you can already do that with photographs. You can already do that with photos. Video's more difficult, but I do worry that it'll get to that point. And as I say, so the fact that Starmer has come out and said, again, he's backing Ofcom here. It'll be Ofcom behind this, not the government. But the government need to make sure Ofcom have the tools and the motivation to do this. But he has said that he supports. So it says here, this is the Guardian article, on Wednesday, Keir Starmer demanded X get a grip of the deluge of AI-created photos of partially clothed women and children on the platform, describing the content as disgraceful and disgusting. Speaking to Greatest Hits Radio, Starmer indicated that X could be blocked in the UK. That's not him saying he would block it, but it's saying that is a power that we have. Ofcom, the UK media watchdog, has the power to request the de facto ban of an app or website under the Online Safety Act. Starmer said Ofcom, quote, has our full support to take action in relation to this. Now, that's good, but let's see it then. Let us see it. He said, it's unlawful. We're not going to tolerate it. I've asked for all options to be on the table. It's disgusting. X need to get their act together and get this material down. We will take action on this because it's simply not tolerable. But here's my problem. So let's say they do that, right? Because in all honesty, that's actually not helping Elon Musk anyway. That content doesn't help him push his political agenda, right? But is it only for like sexualized content of children or real adults that we're going to take action on? What about disinformation? What about fake videos? What about fake AI photos? The implication here is we're only taking action here because this goes beyond the pale. But what about disinformation? I'm just a bit worried about this. Can algorithms that bring up the same material all the time be banned? Actually, really annoying to be recommending the same stuff anyway. Well, no, because the way social media has to work, it has to present to you the content it thinks you want to watch. Now, Twitter doesn't do that. Twitter is fundamentally different, but the others do that. Excuse me, Gordon Bennett. Although Facebook has started throttling a few things as well. But like if you take YouTube, for example, YouTube doesn't throttle anything. YouTube runs on a purely commercial basis. It wants you on the platform. It will show you what it thinks you want to watch, right? And it's using its own AI to try to work out how good, what a video is about, how good it is, stuff like that. In fact, in point of fact, nowadays, the stuff you write for YouTube when you're putting a video up is only useful now for the viewer. It used to be useful for YouTube's own infrastructure, its architecture. Not anymore, because give it 20. I mean, okay, for my stuff it is still useful because it takes a good 24 hours for YouTube to properly analyze a video, and my videos have done their views in the first 24 hours anyway. So YouTube's AI is not that useful to me in terms of matching people to content. But for videos that have longer shelf life, after about 24 hours, YouTube has analyzed the video. It knows what it's about, and it has a pretty good idea of who would like to watch it. So I imagine this, although I've not asked any, but I imagine the sort of content creators who create slow burn content, the sort of stuff that's still going a week or two later, I imagine they have noticed recently a much better click-through rate. I would have guessed. I don't know, but I would guess that. So, yeah, if you stop the algorithm trying to match people with the content they want to watch, those social media platforms can't work. They can't function. So the focus has to be on making them take down harmful content. You can't do it from the algorithm. You can't do it from the algorithm. You can't tackle it from that end, because then the social media platform doesn't work. Because then it's a bit like if you have a Virgin computer and a Virgin YouTube account, right, and you put it up, you will just be deluged with random content that's just very popular content because it doesn't know what you like. You have no profile with it. So if you just create a new Google account and you have a computer with no cookies stored or anything like that, and you go onto YouTube for the first time, you'll just be presented with a load of random, probably like social-based stuff, you know, general interest social-based stuff, but popular stuff. And over time, it starts to learn what you like. If YouTube and other platforms had to exist on just giving you random content and hoping some of it was interesting, the platforms couldn't exist. So you've got to focus on the people who put up the content, and you know, you need to make those people liable. But mostly the platforms, you need to make the platforms. Those platforms now know what the content is. Their AI understands what the content is now. So make it take it down. The other thing that's super dangerous is dodgy AI content can be targeted at those who will believe it and actively hidden from those who debunk it. Yes, or specifically, it can throttle the debunking of it. So yes, it can be targeted at people who may be more susceptible to it. And again, they can know that because people who engage positively with AI deepfakes, well, you know that they're susceptible to it, don't they? But the people who then debunk it, they can still debunk it on those platforms, but you will not, you will throttle that content. You will throttle the fact checking. So YouTube's the only one of the 6 that's good. I mean, Reddit's just a product of the people who manage it. So Reddit, but yeah, I would say YouTube has the best tools, but that's because 10 years ago it was forced to have them. But even YouTube, you cannot rely on YouTube to protect users. It has to come from governments. You know, social media platforms are motivated for one reason or other by money. Even Musk is motivated by money, not generation of income on Twitter, but for his stable of companies. Only politicians can ever be motivated to apply rules for the good of society. They don't always do that either, but they are the only ones who can be. A business, it has to be motivated by profit. If you are the CEO of YouTube or Google or Alphabet, you know, YouTube is owned by Google, it's owned by Alphabet, right? No matter how high up you go. If you're an executive paid by that company, you are paid to make that company money, to maximize profits and minimize losses, right? If you don't do that, they'll hire someone who will. So there's no point in asking a CEO to take a moral stance here. No point at all. It's a bit like on trans issues. You know, a few years ago, corporations were tripping over themselves to support trans rights and LGBTQ plus in general, right? Because that was appealing to their customers, not because the odd company took a moral standpoint. So Lush take a moral standpoint. Ben and Jerry's, before it was sold, used to take a moral standpoint. So there are some companies, some corporations that have principles, sure. Whether you agree with them or not, they are principled. But most don't. Most were just doing it because these were the principles that their customers had. We're now starting to see less corporate support for particularly trans rights. Why? Partly because their customers' attitudes have changed, partly because some of them have actively been threatened with legal action. You know, so yeah, it's so you have to have governments do it. Governments have to. You want the public to put pressure on the governments, and you want the governments to regulate. Must regulate. And again, I'm going to suggest regulating the online space is very much like physical warfare. The more you procrastinate, the harder and more expensive it is down the line. I've said this, the parallel with Ukraine, for example. Russia invades Ukraine in 2014 when we could easily have repelled them. We didn't. Why? Couldn't tell you, but we didn't. Right? Should have done. We would have had no problem now because Putin would have learned, okay, that's an actual red line, right? So he didn't. Then he invades in 2022. Again, well, he builds up on the border. So we could have actually put forces in to physically stop him crossing. We didn't. So then he breaks through. We don't allow Ukraine to fire at targets in Russia, at which point they could have maybe turned things much more quickly. Basically, you know, we allowed Putin to go further and further and further, and we're still doing so. And he keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And at this point, where we are now, if we want to stop him, it would be very expensive. Obviously too expensive because we're not stopping him. It would be very expensive. But there's going to come a point where we're going to have to. It's the same with the online space. We could have regulated it a long time ago. We could have regulated in its early days. We could have looked at it and we could have got, okay, where could this go? Get some experts on board. What are the dangers with this new technology? We know there's benefits to it, but what are the dangers? Regulate against the dangers. Put the guardrails in place. We could have done that when these companies were much smaller and couldn't afford to be blocked in major markets, but we didn't. We didn't do that. And now we're left in a position where these companies are incredibly powerful, but we still have to do it. Because if we don't do it now, it will become more difficult and more expensive to do it in a few years' time. Anyway, last comment, because we've got to leave it there. It says, remember, you're also there training data, unavoidable mostly, so just minimize social media usage, choose better sources of review over time. Again, on social media, on YouTube, I will say you can give permission on YouTube. There's a box to tick where you give permission whether they can use you as training tool or not. But the other thing to say is, I mean, individuals can limit their social media use to whatever they want. But I am going to say, from a point of view of people who need it professionally, whether it be politicians or businesses or content creators, you need to use it. So what you really want is for the government to regulate it for safe use. It's not an option for people who need to use it to not use it. It's an option for people who choose to use it, but not so much for people who need to use it. They say, what would a ban likely mean in practice other than that becoming inaccessible by usual means? Well, that would be it. It would mean, I mean, you wouldn't ban its use completely. People could use VPNs. That's always a danger. That is actually also why I don't think people rush to the ban option. But see, for the others, I think, you know, fines and I think you can force the other platforms to play ball if you mean it. If you, with Twitter, I think we are going to have to ban it. And do you know what? I think, you know, I don't even think that would make Musk behave himself. I think we just have to accept that we need to ban Twitter. We just need to outlaw it. What you do about people with VPNs at that point, I don't know. Just hope that not enough people would use it with a VPN, I guess. You could have a minor law against accessing Twitter, but that's probably a step for later. At the moment, I wouldn't criminalise the British public for using it. That could, there's a few questions about that, but certainly ban it. At least it won't get out to the masses then, I hope. So I got rid of Twitter as soon as Musk was cleared to buy it. Yeah, but the problem is lots of other people don't. It's still a huge platform. The danger of Twitter is not what you put up there or someone else puts up there. The danger is what people see. You cannot stop people seeing harmful content by you yourself boycotting the platform. So what we need to do, stop focusing on boycott. Boycotts don't work. Boycotts only work by depriving a company of revenue. But you're not depriving them of revenue. And Musk doesn't care anyway, right? So you have to focus on forcing that social media platform. Again, the focus has to be on not the people that are on it, the people who are viewing this. And you can't stop the whole public from watching Twitter. But Ofcom can. Use VPNs at your own risk. Well, yes, there's that too. Lawsuit from the parents of kids whose images have been doctored. So this, okay, I'll leave this as my final point. I have mentioned this in a video earlier this week. Here's a thing. Alex Jones spread very damaging disinformation and got sued into the ground. Is there the potential in the future for a class action suit against Elon Musk? It would have to be in America, of course, that does the same to him. Right? That would be an interesting thing. However, that is not going to save us in the next few years. But that could come. I've seen that discussed seriously. What if in future years, and we get, let's say we get a backlash in the West and we get governments in Europe and America that decide that they need to kick back against this. I can see Elon Musk having an Alex Jones style, you know, InfoWars style lawsuit that buries him. Yeah, Alex Jones is still on and people around me still believe him. Well, yeah. But at the same time, he is still, you know, again, I mean, there's no way Musk could keep his other business interests, is there? Like, all he could do is be a social media shock jock. He wouldn't be the world's richest person. But anyway, we'll have to leave it there. I think I'm on Graham's stream in about a quarter of an hour on Politics Social. So I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for coming on, everyone. Have a great rest of day. And until next time, I'll see you later.